Zilfex Prime pulsed with anticipation. The colossal arena at its heart, a marvel of crystalline architecture that seemed to defy gravity, trembled under the weight of countless alien spectators. Today marked the opening of the Galactic Strength Trials, a millennia-old tradition that drew the mightiest beings from across the known universe. Grixthor, the reigning champion from the planet Muscularex, flexed his 12 arms, each rippling with muscles that could crush neutron stars. His iridescent exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh lights of the arena's staging area. "Weaklings," he bellowed, his voice reverberating through the cavernous space. "Who dares to challenge the undefeated?" Nearby, cliques of the Unbreakable, a gelatinous entity from the gravity well of Nexus 9, bubbled with barely contained rage. Her translucent form shimmered with the power of 1,000 black holes. "Your reign ends today, muscle brain," she gurgled menacingly. The arena's announcer, a multi-eyed, tentacled creature named Blixblorx, hovered above the gathered contestants. His voice, amplified by advanced psionics, echoed throughout the stadium and across subspace channels to billions of worlds. "Sentients of the galaxy, welcome to the 10,000th Galactic Strength Trials. Today, we witness power beyond imagination, skill that defies the laws of physics, and courage that would make a supernova tremble." The crowd roared, a cacophony of screeches, bellows, and otherworldly sounds that threatened to shatter the arena's protective force field. Our contestants hail from the farthest reaches of space, the strongest, the toughest, the most incredible beings ever to grace the cosmos. Blixblorx's tentacles waved dramatically, gesturing to the assembled warriors. Among the contestants stood Chuarx the Immovable, a silicon-based life form whose density rivaled that of a dwarf star. Next to him, Zorlax the Swift, whose body crackled with tachyon energy, vibrated at frequencies that made him nearly invisible to the naked eye. But wait! Blixblorx's voice suddenly dropped to a conspiratorial whisper that nonetheless carried to every ear, antenna, and sensory organ in the arena. "This year, we have a surprise. A last-minute entry from a previously undiscovered world." A murmur of excitement rippled through the crowd. Even the hardened contestants looked intrigued. From a tiny blue planet in the unfashionable western spiral arm of the galaxy, we present a human. Silence fell. Then, a wave of laughter swept through the arena. Surely this was a joke? Humans were a primitive species, barely able to escape their own gravity well. What place could one possibly have among the galaxy's mightiest? Grixthor's laughter boomed loudest of all. "A human? Why not send HFY to fight me? It would stand a better chance." But Blixblorx wasn't finished. His eyes gleamed with mischievous excitement. "But not just any human. This specimen comes from a region of Earth known as Florida." The laughter died abruptly. An unsettling quiet descended upon the arena. Even the most battle-hardened warriors shifted uncomfortably. "Florida?" Clixa whispered, a tremor in her gelatinous form. "I've heard stories." Chuarx's crystalline structure vibrated with unease. "Impossible. Florida man is a myth. A horror story told to scare young nebulae." Yet, as the gates to the contestant area slowly opened, a figure emerged that would forever change the course of galactic history. Clad in nothing but tattered shorts and flip-flops, with a beer in one hand and a half-eaten burger in the other, stood Cletus Gator Wrestler McGraw. His potbelly protruded proudly, his farmer's tan a testament to countless hours spent engaging in questionable outdoor activities. A patchy beard adorned his weather-beaten face, and his eyes held the kind of madness that made supernovas look stable. "Hot damn!" Cletus bellowed, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. "Y'all got any gators round here? I'm fixin' to wrestle me something fierce." The galaxy's mightiest warriors took an involuntary step back. They had faced black holes and battled cosmic horrors, but nothing had prepared them for the chaotic energy radiating from this. "Florida man." Blixblorx's tentacles trembled as he announced, "Let the Galactic Strength Trials begin." As Cletus cracked open another beer with his teeth and belched loud enough to shake the arena's foundations, One thought echoed through the minds of every being present. The universe would never be the same again. Cletus Gatorro McGraw's journey to the galactic strength trials began, as most Florida Man stories do, with a series of spectacularly poor decisions and an alarming amount of luck. It all started on a sweltering Tuesday afternoon. Cletus, having just finished a shift at the Gators and Guzzles bar, known for its questionable cocktails and even more questionable live entertainment, decided it was the perfect time to test his homemade swamp rocket. "Why see?" Cletus later explained to a bewildered alien tribunal. "I figured if them NASA folks could make a rocket, how hard could it be? Just need some moonshine for fuel and a whole lot of duct tape." The swamp rocket, a contraption that looked more like a mobile meth lab than any known spacecraft, was cobbled together from an old airboat, 3 washing machines, and what Cletus swore was Genifo parts he'd found in his cousin's backyard. As the Florida sun beat down mercilessly, Cletus donned his lucky gator tooth necklace, cracked open a beer, and fired up his creation. "Yeehaw! To infinity, Inurim," he bellowed as the contraption sputtered to life. What happened next defied all known laws of physics, common sense, and probably several local ordinances. The swamp rocket shot into the sky with the grace of a drunken pelican, leaving a trail of suds and swamp gas in its wake. Unbeknownst to Cletus, his ill-advised launch coincided with a rare cosmic phenomenon known as the Zyglovian Rift, a temporary tear in the space-time continuum that the Galactic Council used to transport contestants to the strength trials. As Cletus's rocket reached its zenith, approximately 37 feet off the ground, it intersected with the rift. There was a flash of light, the smell of burnt rubber and stale beer, and suddenly, Cletus was gone. Light years away, in the contestant reception area of the Galactic Arena, alarms blared. Prixlox the Meticulous, chief organizer of the trials, stared in horror at the readings on his holoscreen. "Impossible!" he shrieked, his 7 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "The rift has pulled in an unregistered contestant." Before anyone could react, reality itself seemed to hiccup. The air shimmered, and with a sound like a giant belch, Cletus and the remains of his swamp rocket materialized in the center of the room. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Cletus, still clutching his beer, which had somehow survived the interdimensional journey, looked around with mild interest. "Well, shit fire and save matches," he exclaimed, taking in the assortment of alien beings staring at him in shock. "This ain't Tallahassee." Prixlox, recovering slightly from the shock, floated towards Cletus on a cushion of pure bureaucratic indignation. This is highly irregular. You can't just crash into the most prestigious event in the galaxy." Cletus belched loudly, causing nearby sensors to short-circuit. "Listen here, Mr. Many Eyes. I don't know nothing about no prestigious event. But if there's a contest going on, well, color me interested. What are we competent for? Biggest gator caught? Furthest loogie spat? It's the Galactic Strength Trials." Prixlox sputtered, waving a tentacle at the hollow displays showing fearsome alien warriors. The most powerful beings in the universe compete for ultimate glory. Cletus's eyes lit up with a special brand of madness that made Florida wildlife give him a wide berth. "Hot damn, that sounds like a hoot and a half. Sign me up, Squidward, but you can't. You're not registered. You're not even from a spacefaring species. This is..." Cletus wasn't listening. He caught sight of the buffet, table laden with alien delicacies, and was already making his way over, a gleam in his eye that spelled trouble for interstellar cuisine everywhere. "Now hold your horses, Squiggles," Cletus said around a mouthful of what appeared to be pulsating purple fungi. "Where I come from, we got a saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying to. Seems to me I got here fair and square, so I'm competent." As if the universe itself was siding with Cletus. At that moment, the ancient and unalterable rules of the Galactic Strength Trials flashed on every screen. Any being that arrives through the Zyglovian Rift is automatically entered as a contestant. No excepciones punto. Prixlox's tentacles drooped in defeat. Cletus, oblivious to the bureaucratic crisis he'd caused, had moved on to what he assumed was the drink table. He grabbed a beaker of shimmering liquid that was actually hyper-concentrated neutron star matter. "Don't drink that," Prixlox cried out in panic. It's not for... Cletus knocked it back like it was cheap tequila. There was a moment of hushed horror as every alien waited for the human to dissolve into a puddle of goo. Instead, Cletus smacked his lips appreciatively. W.E. That's got a kick to it. Reminds me of my Uncle Jed's special brew. May he rest in peace. Or pieces. We never did find all of him after that still explosion. As Prixlox fainted dead away and the other organizers rushed about in panic, Cletus ambled towards the contestant quarters, pausing only to scratch himself inappropriately and ask, "So, when do we start wrestling?" The galactic strength trials were about to experience something far more chaotic than they'd ever encountered in their millennia-long history. Florida Man unleashed on an unsuspecting universe. The first day of the galactic strength trials dawned with an air of trepidation. Contestants from across the universe eyed Cletus warily as he sauntered into the arena, wearing nothing but his tattered shorts, flip-flops, and a smile that spoke of either supreme confidence or complete obliviousness. "Yeehaw! Let's get this rodeo started," Cletus bellowed, his voice echoing through the cavernous space. Blixblorks, still shaken from yesterday's events, hovered nervously above the gathering. Our first trial will test raw strength. Contestants must lift the monolith of Thulu, a cube of ultra-dense dwarf star matter. Grixtor stepped up first, his 12 arms rippling. With a grunt that shook the arena, he managed to lift the monolith a few inches off the ground before dropping it, leaving deep cracks in the arena floor. "Impressed yet, weaklings?" he roared, flexing triumphantly. When it was Cletus's turn, he circled the monolith, scratching his head. "Now hold on a sec. Y'all are going about this all wrong." Before anyone could stop him, he pulled out a small vial of murky liquid. "This here's my secret sauce. Brewed it in my bathtub back home. Melts dang near anything." Horror dawned on the faces of the organizers as Cletus poured the concoction over the monolith. The supposedly indestructible cube began to sizzle and shrink. "What in the name of the cosmic egg is that?" shrieked Prixlox. Cletus grinned. "Just a little mix of moonshine, gator pea, and what my Uncle Cletus called don't ask, don't tell sauce." As the monolith shrunk to the size of a die, Cletus casually picked it up and tossed it to a flabbergasted Blixblorks. "There you go, floaty. I lifted it." Amidst the stunned silence, the scoreboard reluctantly flickered, awarding Cletus maximum points. The next trial involved a race through a deadly obstacle course. Zorlax the Swift took off in a blur, his tachyon-infused body weaving through laser grids and plasma jets. When it was Cletus's turn, he squinted at the course. "Shoot, this ain't nothing compared to Black Friday at Walmart." He pulled out a familiar-looking contraption. "Good thing I always carry a spare swamp rocket." Before anyone could object, Cletus had fired up his makeshift vehicle. What followed was less a race and more a reign of chaos. The swamp rocket pinballed through the course, somehow triggering every obstacle to malfunction spectacularly. Laser grids short-circuited, plasma jets reversed direction, and gravity fields went haywire. Cletus emerged on the other side, singed but grinning, while the course behind him resembled a war zone. WOWE. That was more fun than cow dipping on a Saturday night. The third trial was meant to test mental fortitude. Contestants had to resist the psychic onslaught of the hive mind of Zyglax 7. Clicks of the Unbreakable lasted an impressive 20 minutes before collapsing into a quivering puddle. Chuarks the Immovable stood firm for 25 minutes before his crystalline form cracked under the mental pressure. When it was Cletus's turn, the hive mind descended upon him and immediately recoiled in shock. "By the cosmic void," the collective consciousness screamed. "What manner of chaos is this?" Inside Cletus's mind, the hive found a swirling maelstrom of alligator wrestling techniques, improbable conspiracy theories, and what appeared to be recipes for deep-fried everything. Attempts to navigate this mental landscape left the hive feeling dizzy and slightly nauseous. After 5 minutes, the hive mind retreated, looking decidedly green around its ethereal edges. We forfeit," it mumbled. "This mind is impenetrable." Cletus blinked, unaware of what had transpired. "Is it my turn yet?" As the day wore on, Cletus continued to baffle and amaze. He won the underwater breathing contest by somehow using his beer as a makeshift oxygen tank. In the extreme temperature challenge, he treated the heat chamber like a sauna, emerging with a perfectly grilled hot dog he'd snuck in. The final event of the day was the Face Your Darkest Fear challenge. Contestants entered a psychic chamber that manifested their greatest terrors. Grixthor fled screaming from visions of losing his muscles. Clixa evaporated in terror when faced with a giant space sponge. Even Chuarks shattered when confronted by the concept of entropy. When Cletus entered, the chamber went quiet. Then, inexplicably, sounds of raucous laughter emerged. The door opened, and Cletus walked out, wiping tears from his eyes. "Lordy, that was a hoot! Y'all won't believe what I saw in there." Prixlox, against his better judgment, asked, What did you see?" Cletus grinned. "It was my ex-wife Lurleen, but she was telling me to make better life choices." Can you imagine? Hilarious. As the first day of trials concluded, the scoreboard told a tale no one could have predicted. Somehow, against all logic and several laws of physics, Cletus Gatoressa McGraw was in the lead. The other contestants huddled together, casting wary glances at the Florida man who was now attempting to turn one of the anti-gravity platforms into a makeshift mechanical bull. "This cannot stand," growled Grixthor. "The human must be stopped." Clixa bubbled in agreement. "He's a menace to the natural order." What they didn't realize was that Cletus McGraw was more than a menace to the natural order. He was chaos incarnate, a force of nature wrapped in the unassuming guise of a Florida man. And he was just getting started. As night fell on Zilfex Prime, and the contestants retired to lick their wounds and plot their strategies, one thing was clear: the galactic strength trials would never be the same again. As the sun rose on Zilfex Prime, casting an eerie purple glow across the crystalline landscape, the arena buzzed with anticipation. Today would determine the champion of the galactic strength trials, and against all odds, a human, a Florida man, was in the lead. Cletus sauntered into the arena, a half-eaten intergalactic breakfast burrito in one hand and a mug of something that smelled suspiciously like motor oil in the other. HFY, what's on the menu today, y'all? I'm fixin' to win me a galactic hootenanny. Blixblorks descended from above, his tentacles twitching nervously. Gentle beings, today's final challenge is the most arduous in the history of the trials. The contestant must face the Omega Colossus. A collective gasp rippled through the stadium. Even Grixthor, the 12-armed behemoth, looked uneasy. Excuse me, Mr. Floaty," Cletus interrupted, scratching his beard. "What in tarnation is an Omega Colossus? Sounds like a fancy name for a big old crawdad." Before Blixblorks could answer, the ground began to shake. The arena floor split open, and from its depths rose a monstrosity that defied description. It was as if someone had taken every terrifying creature in the galaxy, mixed them in a blender, and then zapped the result with cosmic radiation. The Omega Colossus stood taller than a skyscraper, its body a writhing mass of tentacles, claws, and what appeared to be several black holes. Its roar shook the very fabric of space-time. "Sweet baby Jesus on a jet ski," Cletus exclaimed, eyes wide. "Now that's what I call a grade A chonker." Prixlox floated down, his many eyes blinking rapidly in distress. The challenge is simple yet impossible. Defeat the Omega Colossus, or die trying. Cletus nodded sagely. Ain't no different from Gator Wrestling on a Tuesday. Except the Gator's a mite bigger and has them fancy space doohickeys. As the other finalists prepared for battle, Cletus rummaged through his pockets. He pulled out a tangled fishing line, a half-eaten candy bar, and what looked suspiciously like a rubber chicken. Grixthor was up first. He charged at the Colossus, his 12 arms a blur of motion. For a moment, it seemed like he might have a chance. Then, with a casual swipe, the Colossus sent him flying into the next solar system. Clixa tried next, attempting to envelop the beast in her gelatinous form. The Colossus simply opened one of its black holes, and with a slurping sound, Clixa was gone. Finally, it was Cletus's turn. He strolled up to the Colossus, completely unfazed by its reality-warping presence. "Now listen here, "You overgrown lizard," Cletus called out, his voice somehow carrying over the cosmic roar. "I've tangled with critters meaner than you at the Tallahassee State Fair. Hell, my ex-wife Lurleen was scarier after a night of moonshine and square dancing." The Colossus, for the first time in its eons-long existence, looked confused. It reached down with a giant claw, intending to squash Cletus like a bud. But Cletus was ready. With the lightning-fast reflexes honed by years of dodging alligators and debt collectors, he whipped out his rubber chicken. "Waiti!" he yelled, tossing it straight at the Colossus's face. What happened next defied every law of physics, biology, and common sense in the known universe. The rubber chicken, mid-flight, began to glow with an otherworldly light. It struck the Colossus right between its 17 eyes, and suddenly, boom! A blinding flash lit up the arena. When the light faded, the Omega Colossus was gone. In its place stood a very confused-looking chicken the size of a small moon. Silence fell over the arena. Prixlox's jaw, all three of them dropped. Blixblorx's tentacles tied themselves in knots. And Cletus? He just grinned and spat a stream of tobacco juice that somehow defied gravity to form a perfect spiral. "Well, I'll be dipped in chitlins and deep-fried." Cletus chuckled. "Looks like we're having chicken for dinner. Anyone got a planet-sized fryer?" The cosmic chicken, seemingly realizing its new state of existence, let out a bewildered BAWA that echoed across galaxies. Cletus approached the transformed Colossus, pulled out a comically small leash from his back pocket, and somehow managed to secure it around the chicken's planet-sized leg. "Come on, Big Bird. You're coming home with me. I know a fellow with a deep fryer the size of Jupiter." As Cletus led his new pet out of the arena, the assembled aliens could only stare in slack-jawed astonishment. Prixlox, his bureaucratic mind finally short-circuiting, fainted dead away. Blixblorx, after several attempts to speak, finally managed to squeak out, I guess we have a winner." The scoreboard, as if sighing in defeat, flashed Cletus's name in letters visible from orbit. Cletus Gatorasla McGraw, champion of the galaxy. As news of Cletus's victory spread across the cosmos, civilizations that had been at war for millennia laid down their arms, united in their shared bewilderment. Philosophers questioned the very nature of reality. And somewhere, in the depths of space, a chicken the size of a moon let out another confused BAWK. The universe would never be the same. But then again, that's what happens when Florida Man gets loose in the cosmos. In the days following Cletus Gatorasla McGraw's unprecedented victory at the Galactic Strength Trials, the universe found itself in a state of beautiful chaos. Cletus, now officially crowned as the strongest being in the galaxy, sat atop his throne, a modified lazy-boy recliner he'd cobbled together from spare parts found in the arena's dumpster. His new pet, the colossal cosmic chicken, whom he'd affectionately named Nugget, lounged nearby, occasionally pecking at passing asteroids. "Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit," Cletus exclaimed, cracking open another otherworldly beer. "This champion gig ain't half bad." The Galactic Council, still reeling from the events of the trials, convened an emergency session. The agenda: what to do about the Florida Man problem. "He's a menace," screeched Counselor ZYX Norp, his three heads bobbing in agitation. "Did you see what he did to the sacred fountain of eternal wisdom? He turned it into a slip and slide." Counselor Bloop, Ascension Ocean, gurgled in agreement. "Last solar cycle, he tried to go fishing in my southern hemisphere. Do you have any idea how that feels?" At the head of the table, Grand Arbiter Zelexia raised all 7 of her appendages for silence. "Colleagues, please. We must approach this with logic and reason. The human Cletus has proven himself to be the strongest in the galaxy. By our own laws, he is entitled to the wish." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. The wish, a reality-altering power granted to each champion of the trials, had reshaped galaxies and rewritten the laws of physics in the past. Meanwhile, blissfully unaware of the cosmic deliberations, Cletus was engaged in his new favorite pastime, teaching alien species the art of the culinary abomination. "Now pay attention, y'all," he drawled to a group of bewildered extraterrestrials. The secret to a good deep-fried matter/antimatter sandwich is all in the batter. You gotta use just the right amount of cosmic radiation to get that perfect crunch. Across the galaxy, civilizations brace for the worst. What would this unpredictable human wish for? Unlimited power? Galactic domination? The transformation of all sentient life into alligators? Finally, the day of the wish arrived. The Galactic Council, along with representatives from every known species, gathered in the grand amphitheater of Zilfex Prime. Trillions more watched via hyperspace broadcast. Zelexia approached Cletus, who was lounging on his throne, idly tossing moon-sized chicken treats to Nugget. Cletus of Earth, champion of the galactic strength trials, you have earned the right to reshape reality itself. What is your wish? The universe held its breath. Somewhere, a star went supernova in anticipation. Cletus scratched his beard thoughtfully. Well, ma'am, I've been thinking about this real hard, and I reckon I know just what the galaxy needs. He stood up, cleared his throat, and in a voice that echoed across the cosmos, declared, I wish for a galaxy-wide tailgate party, with beer that never runs out, grills that can cook anything, and a sound system that can be heard in every dang corner of the universe. Silence. Then, as if the very fabric of reality shrugged and said, why not? The wish took effect. Across every planet, moon, and space station, grills materialized out of thin air. Coolers filled with never-ending beer appeared in every home. And the opening chords of Sweet Home Alabama began playing at a volume that made black holes vibrate. Cletus grinned. Now it's a party. What followed was perhaps the strangest event in galactic history. Species that had been mortal enemies found themselves sharing beers and comparing barbecue techniques. Warships were converted into giant kegs. The hive mind of Zyglax, 7 discovered it had a talent for karaoke. Zelexia, watching the chaos unfold, turned to Prixlox. Is this a good thing? Prixlox, who had somehow acquired a galaxy's best barbecue apron, shrugged all 18 of his shoulders. You know what? I think it might be. Did you try the deep-fried neutron star? It's surprisingly tasty. As the party raged on, breaking down barriers and fostering understanding in ways no diplomat had ever managed, Cletus sat back on his throne, a satisfied grin on his face. You know, Nugget, he said to his planet-sized chicken, I reckon we done good. Ain't no problem in the universe that can't be solved with good food, cold beer, and a whole lot of yeehaw. Nugget responded with a BAWK that sent ripples through the space-time continuum. In the years that followed, the galaxy entered an unprecedented era of peace and prosperity. Turns out, it's hard to wage war when you're nursing a universe-sized hangover and craving more of that awesome dip the Zorgans brought to last week's get-together. Cletus, for his part, became a beloved figure across the cosmos. His unique blend of Florida man wisdom and utter disregard for the impossible made him the go-to problem solver for everything from diplomatic crises to figuring out how to unstick a moon that had somehow gotten wedged between 2 planets. And so, the legend of Cletus Gator Wrestler McGraw, the Florida man who became the strongest being in the galaxy, lived on. Across countless worlds, parents would tell their offspring, remember, no matter how tough things get, you can always ask yourself, what would Florida man do? The answer, invariably, involved questionable decisions, improbable success, and a whole lot of fun. As for Earth, well, let's just say the next time an alien species thought about invading, they took one look at Florida, remembered Cletus, and decided maybe they'd be better off staying home. After all, in a universe where a Florida man could become the strongest being in existence, who knew what other terrifying wonders that little blue planet might unleash upon the cosmos?